Hello everyone, it's Oliver Harper here. This is a video on how I produce my retrospectives. A number of people had asked me how I make these videos, and I never really thought it would be that interesting to show my viewers, but I thought I'd honour that request and show you how it's done. I first started doing these videos, late 2011, and the first review was Superman 4, and I wanted to produce a video that would be educational and also provide my sort of opinion at the end, which is a common formula for all my videos when you see them online. Also at the beginning, if you see some of my earlier stuff, it's very much I didn't want to talk that much. I always threw in random clips of stuff, and it wasn't. Like now, it's not a thing where I wanted to be on camera. I wanted to sort of be behind the scenes and just provide a voiceover and have the video play out like a mini documentary. So the first thing on this video, we're going to show you how I take the footage and then put it onto my computer, and how things are edited and how I record the voiceovers. So let's crack on, shall we? When it comes to taking footage from a DVD or Blu-ray, it's best thing to do is actually have a portable DVD drive or Blu-ray drive, and have software which can break down each chapter from a film, and you can take each chapter and use them accordingly, or rip the entire film. In the past, I've tried to use video capture cards, but they are generally very expensive and eat up a lot of memory when you're recording. So I found some software which is very cheap. You can get it for like $40 online. I think the company is called AESoft, and you can rip any file and convert it into any format you like, into MP4, AVI, iPhone software, PS3 playback, or Xbox playback. It's so easy, and you can change the frame rates, and you can. Also with Blu-rays, when you rip the audio, you can have it in 5.1 as well. So when it comes to editing videos, like if you want to make a trailer or a video montage, you can take out parts of the audio, like the left and right, and just have the clear center audio, which you can use for just clear dialogue, instead of having music sort of bleeding into the channels. The process of actually ripping the movie from the disc can take up to about 4 hours, depending on the length of the film and the size of the bit rate itself. Something like Terminator 2 would take like maybe 4 hours or maybe less if you rip the entire long version of the film. But once that's done, you can do anything with it. I mean, sometimes you can have like an MP4 file and you can drop and drag into your editing software, and it will say error or it's not compatible, even though the software does allow you to edit MP4. With this software though, which you can see on the screen, lets you convert it into a file which will be suitable for your computer. Because I use an Apple Mac, I don't use Avid or Adobe Premiere. Things like Avid is really expensive. It costs maybe £1,000 or more just for the software, and some of the software has to work in conjunction with hardware. I think now the Avid is a lot more cheaper, a lot more affordable to get, but it's still nearly £1,000, and it's quite expensive. Final Cut Pro 7 is what I use. There is Final Cut Pro 10, which is not very well. I have used it. It's kind of like iMovie, but with a few more extra features, and I didn't like it at all. So I'm sticking with Final Cut Pro 7. For other things, like if you have an analog system like Laserdisc or VHS, if you want to capture footage like that, you can't really use DVD drive or Blu-ray drive, obviously. So you have to have a video capture device, which is basically like a phonos to USB. And that process is basically the same as you would use like a video capture card, and does eat up a lot of memory. But also you get problems where the software doesn't interlace or doesn't use progressive scan to sort of remove the interlaced image, so you end up with like a sort of it doesn't look very good. So you have to sort of fiddle around with a lot of settings to make sure it plays back okay. When it comes to editing your film on Final Cut Pro, Final Cut Pro is very easy to use. It does look a little bit complicated at first, but once you sort of got the timeline and you've got all your files you need on the left in the library section, you can drop and drag and edit how you please. I generally, when it comes to reviewing a film, let's say for example I'm reviewing Jaws 3D this week, I obviously got the soundtrack, and I listen to the soundtrack quite frequently when I'm not editing. So it does sort of help you, it does inspire you when it comes to editing, like the opening trailer and the ending montage. Does sort of help spruce up some ideas. But when you've got the soundtrack, you know, it's obviously for the rest of the review, I'll take snippets on the soundtrack and just have it quite quiet in the background, and you can have my voiceover, as it were, over the top. But obviously, before doing the voiceover, you have to research the film you're reviewing. I mean, a lot of websites do have a lot of information on films. Now, Wikipedia is one, and IMDb Trivia, but you can't always guarantee these websites are going to be telling the truth. A lot of the times, you know, you can, you know, one website will say one thing and one website will say another. So it does help if you, for example, if the film had a commentary with it as well, you can listen to the commentary, double check some of the facts are true, or any other interesting trivia which you can replace, which you feel may be not correct. Obviously, some DVDs come with making-ofs, new retrospectives, as it were, which you can use the footage for that and take information from that and use it how you see fit in your editorial. There's obviously some people have said to me, you know, you've missed out certain things in my reviews when it comes to doing research, but it's one of those things down to hindsight, really, where, you know, I've reviewed the film and maybe a week or two later I find the answer or find a little bit more information that explains some problems, like in The Crow, where you've got Brandon Lee, well, what part of his face was CGI'd in when he passed away, or certain little things like Star Trek Review, where there's little bits of information I didn't mention, but it's like a couple of weeks later you find the information, it's like, damn, I could have added that in. But that's the thing when it comes to researching, you can only do, and also it's down to what people may find interesting. You can go on for ages rambling about one film, but end up providing too much information and may end up boring the general public who just click on your videos just for a random viewing. You have to make sure what you're covering is quite interesting, and not too short, but obviously enough to satisfy their need for trivia, I suppose. Once I've written a review, I break it down into like production, intro, and you've got the casting or story, then the music, special effects, then my review. I generally start off writing the review first. Just sort of get all my opinions out straight away, what I think of the film straight after viewing it. Or sometimes, you know, I haven't reviewed, I mean, if it's a film I know so well, I don't need to revisit it again to see it. Something like Superman, I already know it in and out, so I'm not going to bother to watch it again. But yeah, then I sort of work my way backwards and give my opinion on the music and the special effects and how things were done. So yeah, so once I've done all that, it takes me a week to produce a video. So by day 3, I'm still writing, kind of. I mean, the first day I sort of get the intro done, because the intros are the best part, I think, for me. The parts I have the most fun with, because I love editing. So when it comes to researching and reviewing, I don't get me wrong, I like doing that, but editing, like the montages, is the part where I have a lot of fun. By like day 3 or 4, I will get the voiceover done. And it takes me like, the review could only be like 15 minutes long in length if you read it out straight away without any fuck ups or errors when you're recording the voiceover. But generally, it would take me about half an hour to get, say, like a 15-minute review done, because you've always got problems where you've got cars driving past. You know, I've got a dog; it'll start barking, or people knock at your door, or your brain just wanders and you fuck up your line. You've got to do it again. But once it's all done, you can drop and drag. I record it with my computer, it came with QuickTime Pro, so it wasn't, obviously you can download QuickTime, but it's not the Pro version. I think you have to pay for. So it gives you the option to record video and audio. So I record audio through QuickTime Pro, and it records it in a mono track. So you have to sort of double up the audio when you put it into your timeline, which isn't a big deal, because when you do record it, it does sound a bit quiet. So you've got to double it up, and it sounds a lot better. But in the microphones I did use in the beginning, in my first series of reviews, I recorded the microphone from the computer, which has a built-in microphone itself. But what you get is a very hollow, sort of little reverb on it, so it sounds quite echoey in a way. I'm not sure if that sounds hollow, but once I got a new microphone, which is the one I'm using now, this is like £40 from like Maplin's, like an electronics store, very cheap to get hold of. You know, I've got like an adapter where you've got a filter to avoid any sort of bursts of sound. You know, when you say the letter P, or things like that. But yeah, it comes very straightforward, very easy to use, and using with QuickTime Pro, it's a doddle. But once I've recorded it all, drop and drag, get all the voiceover done first. So once because I've already done the intro, because I always put the intro up a week before my review, so it gives people time to see the film before I review it. Because some people have come forward saying, Ollie, you spoilt the film for me, blah blah blah. It's like, well, the film's 20 years old. I think you should have seen it by now. Once I've recorded all the voiceover, I'll edit it into the timeline, cut out all the ums and ahs and all the errors and things like that, and get it all in place. And it gives me a rough estimate, well, pretty much a 90% estimate how long the review's going to be. Because my intro and ending montages can be like maybe 2 minutes max, maybe a little bit over, depending on how I've gone a bit too crazy with one intro. Roughly comes out about 15-20 minutes. And there's a point where my videos were always 15 minutes because my account was limited in a way because of like content ID matches bullshit. But once that sort of being partnered with a network sort of removed some of these problems and removed some of these videos which were flagged, as it were, it sort of freed me up a bit. Some of my reviews have been more than 20 minutes, maybe 27 minutes for Superman, and quite a long one for Terminator 2, but it wasn't something I'm going to be doing on a frequent basis. It really depends on what the film is. If you do a film, if you're going to research a film like a random Van Damme film or something like that, where there isn't really much information and the DVDs never have extra features, so you have to sort of do a lot of digging to find the information, or just really discuss more about your own opinion on the film and not much about the production, which could limit the review maybe down to like 12, 13. But if the review, if you're also making your own reviews, and if you've covered enough stuff to please the most basic fan of the film, then you'll be fine. Obviously, once the audio's all in place, I will drop and drag the video into the review. Dropping and dragging, it's just finding the moments you're talking about in the film. So you're talking about the story, you do the story and just break it down to chunks and drop it in. The annoying thing is trying to find, if you do something like, for example, I'm doing Jaws 3D, there's a big chunk on 3D cinema and 3D of the 50s and how it's changed over time in 3D of the 80s. So you've got to find enough images to reflect on what you're saying, because if you don't have enough, you can't find anything. It's very difficult to sort of visualize what you're discussing, and also takes away some of the flow of the video and looks a bit, if you're just showing parts of the film, it doesn't become that interesting. But that's the difficult part, is finding the photos, finding images. But dropping and dragging the film is very simple and straightforward. It'll probably take me maybe a day or just over to get all the video in place, depending on how large the video is. Obviously, then you've got to add the video bar, which just goes along the top of the video, which is like Oliver's Retrospectives. It used to be Blip TV, but Blip removed my channel because they thought my work wasn't original. But fuck them. But it takes about 45 minutes to add that bar to render it all. Rendering, because when you create a sequence in Final Cut Pro, and as you set the settings at 720p, 24 frames, pixel ratio square. In the past, I had the pixel ratio at some sort of weird setting, which was like PAL or NTSC, and it sort of stretched out the scope format a bit too much. So you may see some of my earlier videos, the scope films look a bit too squashed. They shouldn't look like that. And some people have said, the wrong aspect ratio. So, no, I'm sorry, it's just the editing software is being lame. Also with me being a fool. So yeah, once you've got the settings on, the ratio setting, if the compressor style, if you choose compressor MP4, and your footage is MP4, you won't have to render any of it. There's no rendering at all. You can just drop and drag, blah, 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 done really quickly. But when you come to add video bars and not opticals, but dissolves and things like that, you've added on top, then you're going to have to render stuff. But adding dissolves and fade-ins and fade-outs take like 5 seconds. Obviously, it depends how fast your computer is. This is I'm just using an iMac, but it has enough memory, enough RAM to sort of let me do what I want to do. But once you've added the video bar, I go back through it and adjust the audio levels, because you have to make sure that the music I've added hasn't drowned out what I'm saying. And also just trim bits where the audio, like you can hear like bips or like a little bit of a hiss or me breathing into the microphone. You don't want to hear that. But once that's all edited, it will take about 45 minutes to export. And then sometimes with QuickTime, if you're trying to get the settings right with compression, it may come out at like 2 gigabytes in size, and uploading 2 gigabytes to YouTube will take forever. And most internet service providers don't give you much upload speed. They'll give you 30 megabytes plus download speed, but maybe 2 megabytes upload speed. which I need to sort of speak to my service provider to sort of increase that. But I do shrink it again. But with other software I've got, which is by AESoft as well, which you use to rip Blu-rays, they have another software which lets you compress files into any format as well. So I'll compress it down again in MP4, but change some of the bit rate, so there's not much loss in quality. And then, boom, done. I'm finished, and I'll upload it to YouTube. Sometimes I'll probably upload it unlisted and sort of get some people to have a look at it, double check, make sure I've not, even before I upload it, I'll let a couple of people watch it, so it's not just me, missing out bits. Or because when you produce your own videos, you're your own worst critic. And you can, watch it and think, oh, that's an error there, I didn't like that bit, or the timing's off here. But someone else will watch it and see it completely different. And they may, be totally blind to the faults in which you can see. But the faults you can see may just be silly, trivial things, and no one will notice. So once that's done, okay, I will upload it, and then there, it's finished. And then literally a day later, I will jump onto the next video and get the intro done, because once you've sort of done one video, you still feel happy you've done everything. You spend a week to sort of stressing out trying to get it done and trying to please everyone and making sure it works for the fans as well, because if you're doing a film like Jaws, for example, there's going to be fans of the film, and you have to sort of cover the points where they will feel happy with the video and not just be me just either slagging off the film or saying, it's really good but it's bad for these reasons, or not covering the right production elements, or not discussing certain elements like the special effects enough. But I have to try and make sure I cover enough so it pleases them, also makes the general public feel happy with the results and feel satisfied with the review. So that's how I make my videos. If there's any other questions that you may have about what I do with certain parts of the reviews, or how I research certain things, then please leave a comment and I'll obviously reply to it. When making these videos and the sort of feedback I've received, the feedback has been 95% really good, which is always very pleasantly surprising, because you never can tell what people are going to think of it. Because before I upload it, I'm sometimes really panicking if anyone's going to like it, or it's not worked at all, or I haven't covered the right thing, But yeah, the feedback's been so good. I mean, you're always going to get negative feedback. It's always good to have that, though. I mean, if everyone agreed with you, I don't think that would make for an interesting discussion with other people, especially with comments and things like that. If everyone's just like, yeah, I love everything you do, then it's kind of like, it's great because then it's great, but it's good to have some criticism so there is room for improvement. But obviously, the more popular you get, the more followers you get, the more sort of people who will be more inclined to be negative, possibly. But at the moment, I'm really happy with with my followers, and really nice people. Always very chatty. I'm always trying to reply to all comments. I think that's the key element. I think with YouTube channels is communication. If you didn't communicate with your audience, then I don't think it would increase your awareness. I mean, I'm subscribed to other channels and big YouTubers, and you never see a reply, which is quite a shame. But maybe they just get inundated with so many messages, it's hard for them to reply. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found it informative and found it interesting. I hope. I will be continuing with more videos this year. This season is all about the most requested films I've received. So these reviews are for the viewers. So the next review is going to be Batman and Robin. So so prepare for that dreaded turd, as it were. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and you will see me again soon.